Oklahoma, man, they thought they had Jim Knowles. They thought they were getting him. We had connected all the dots. We were recklessly speculating about what's going on with the romantic partners. Oh, but the answer was right in front of us. And it's a massive new contract. It is the opportunity to be back in the state of Pennsylvania for Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles leaving Ohio State to go be the defensive coordinator at Penn State, a position that was left vacant when Tom Allen goes to Clemson. The James Franklin adds even more hype and expectations to a 2025 season that was already loaded with it. Knowles, as we mentioned, is one of the top respected defensive minds in the game right now. I wouldn't say that there's a lot of shock here. There's clearly the Penn State side, but then also what this means for Ohio State with maybe even more assistant coaching changes to come over there in Columbus. Tom, what did you make now that we know that Jim Knowles, we know his destination. We knew there was a potential he might leave Columbus. He was not a part of the championship celebration in Columbus over the weekend. And that's because they were getting things finalized for what was made official here on Monday. What do you make of Penn State going to get Jim Knowles from Columbus?
Congratulations to James Franklin on his first win over Ohio State since 2016. So that's a big win for James. I wasn't shocked that he left because like you said, there was all the Oklahoma stuff. There was plenty of smoke that Jim Knowles was kind of looking to get out. I was surprised it ended up being Penn State just because of the situation you look at. Ohio State has been the better Big Ten program than Penn State, but I guess Knowles is from Philadelphia, which is only a few hours away from State College. So people have been bringing that up like he's going home, which is like saying I'm moving to Springfield, Illinois, because I'm from Chicago. But I
said Pennsylvania native. I couched it intentionally. It's
but no, I'm saying like I saw it spun by like a lot of reporters, like the Philadelphia native is going home. It's like, okay, I'm sure. But I think it speaks to there's got to be, there's been rumored friction behind the scenes. And I think it speaks to that's probably real because he's not only leaving the team that he just won a national title with, but he's going to like an interconference rival in Penn State, who is somebody that's been one of their primary competitors, who was also a Final Four team. And of course, he's also getting a lot of money to do so, which I'm sure plays a role, but it's not like Ohio State's broke. So I think it's very interesting. I think it's a great hire for Penn State because he's one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. And you look at what Penn State's done the last few years. They've had coordinators. They always leave. James Franklin does a great job replacing them with guys who do a great job coaching his teams. And now he's done it again. But now I think he's actually got a guy who might stick around for a few years because Jim Knowles has not struck me as somebody who's looking to be a head coach anytime soon.
Yeah, I think Jim Knowles cashed in here, right? He's probably not somebody who's likely to get a head coaching job. One of the reasons why we were like, wow, Oklahoma, okay. There was an Oklahoma site out there, not the 24/7 sports site, that dropped a video like reacting to the hire of Jim Knowles. I think it was dropped in air because it later got pulled, as best I can tell. I was looking for it this morning. Yeah, it was.
Tales from content past,
100%, man.
Don't load this stuff up anymore. Don't know.
I did it with LaMarcus Joyner back in like 08 or 07, whatever that was. And ended up hitting publish instead of schedule. So we've all done it, but like I think it was like, wow, like that's a pretty big step to pre-record the video like that if you don't know the guy's coming. But Penn State makes a lot more sense. I think Penn State has kind of roughly equal defensive talent to what Oklahoma has. Oklahoma certainly has some really nice young defensive linemen. Penn State is losing potentially the number one pick in the draft in Abdul Carter. They will need some, probably some spring help there in the transfer portal, but the strike program's good. They recruit defense very well. They should be really good on defense again. And, Ohio State probably is going to take somewhat of a step back on defense, regardless of who they hire, but I don't really feel that bad for Ohio State. I feel like they're going to get somebody really good too.
Is anybody else dying to know what the fiance thinks?
Yes.
I want to know what
100%.
Was she was just a pawn?
I mean, flights to Happy Valley are not easy. So
right,
exactly. She may not be happy with that. Yeah.
Right. I'm very curious to know what that was all about. If it was just a negotiating ploy that was floated out there.
More
If
like
you're making
Hidden
$3
Valley,
million,
am I right?
Yeah.
Come on.
I
You
mean,
can get a
yeah.
wheels up deal. You can get a wheels up NetJets. You could have her in the, anytime she wants.
Is the runway long enough to get to where she wants to go, though? That's the question.
Yes. I think this is a great move for Penn State. It feels like Penn State is trying to do what Michigan did a couple years ago, what Ohio State did last year, when you're kind of all in. Ole Miss tried to do it too, right? Ole Miss had, they hit the portal hard, but you feel like you have something special brewing. You've got Drew Aller coming back. You got both your running backs coming back, and the one thing that was a question mark was Tom Allen leaving. So you want to make sure you have all these pieces together. And I know they're still losing guys like Abdul Carter and Tyler Warren, and they're losing some pieces, but it feels like they're all in, and they got a little taste of what it was like to be in the playoffs, saw how close they potentially could be. I mean, they were one play away potentially from being in the national championship game, so they do not want to miss out on this opportunity. So not surprised by this move at all. And if you're Ohio State, it's interesting. The thing that's interesting to me about it is we have talked about the money that coaches are making, and when are schools going to figure out that maybe you don't want to spend so much money on your coaches and invest that money in players. That still would be my philosophy, but maybe Penn State's in a situation like some of these schools, these elite schools, where we'll have enough left over. Like, we don't have to pinch pennies. I still think you could have gotten somebody really good for $2 million, spent $1 million on a couple players, maybe one player, but they probably still can get that same player, so it's not like that big of a deal for them.
Well, I tell you, I go back to what we've been talking about here in terms of what's available in the portal. That if the talent level isn't great in the transfer portal, and you're going to have to overpay for some of those players in the transfer portal, that extra $1 million a year might be better spent on Jim Knowles than on somebody who's not necessarily worth that. They just are based on the market and based on the availability of players. There is obviously NIL money that is being dedicated towards making sure that Drew Aller, Katron Allen, Nick Singleton, Denai Dennis Sutton, like all these players are being compensated in a way that's going to keep everybody focused on the task at hand. So if you've been able to retain all of that talent, you look into the portal, you don't see any easy additions. This might just be a season where, when we're trying to make those, $500,000, $1.5 million swing decisions, I'd be fine doing it for Jim Knowles, and I would especially be fine doing it taking him from Ohio State, because there is something about that where, in terms of, they just won a title, you went and got their guy, he's excited to come and join you and to be able to try to help you take the next step. Because who was not playing in Indianapolis on December 7th? Ohio State. And who was one score away from winning their first Big Ten title since 2016? Penn State. So this feels a lot to me like it is. I love the all or nothing. I know somebody, I think Preston in the tailgate brought it up before we got started. It does feel very much like you were trying to assemble the pieces to go make one more run at it after getting that taste. And if you're going to spend a little bit extra to make sure that you get Jim Knowles away from going to Oklahoma or staying at Ohio State, I think I'm fine with that decision in terms of, play. He cannot catch passes. I get the jokes. He's not a wide receiver, but he is one of the best defensive coordinators. I think it's a big, big win for Penn State for sure.
Kind of ramps up the pressure too, right? I mean,
100%.
Now it's like, hey, we're giving you a $3 million defensive coordinator. I think, to your point, you would much rather just have some random coach and actually have a player available in the portal who's worth $3 million. But barring that, and there's not that guy in the portal this year, Jim Knowles pretty good get.
One little fact too about this. In his entire career as an offensive coordinator, there have been 2 games in which Andy Kotelnicki's offenses have failed to score a touchdown. One was October 30th, 2021 with Kansas against Oklahoma State. One was just this November 2nd, 2024 with Penn State against Ohio State. The defensive coordinator of both of those defenses, Jim Knowles. Now they're on the same staff at Penn State. So Andy Kotelnicki's offense is going to score at least 1 touchdown in every game for the rest of the time.
That's incredible. And they're going to go up against each other.
Mm-hmm.
Iron sharpens iron. Let's go.
One of those things, like you hear coaches say, is like, I always try to hire the guy I can't beat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's
so
like,
Andy
James Franklin went to Andy Kotelnicki and said, who's the best defensive coordinator in the country? He said, Jim Knowles. Okay, we'll go hire him.
The only guy that can keep me out of the end zone. It doesn't matter whether it's Kansas or Penn State or wherever.